We're also greatly moved to have with us families of our fallen heroes. Our nation owes each of you a profound debt that no words or deeds will ever repay. But we can and we will keep our nation's promise to you. In a few moments, I will sign the 9/11 Victims' Compensation Fund. This law makes permanent the financial support for families who lost precious loved ones as a result of September 11th attacks. It also provides pensions for those who are suffering from cancer and other illnesses stemming from the toxic debris they were exposed to in the aftermath of the attacks. Many of those affected were firefighters, police officers, and other first responders. And I was down there also, but I'm not considering myself a first responder, but I was down there. I spent a lot of time down there with you. Now I'm going to sign this bill into law, and I don't know if this stage will hold it, but if it doesn't, we're not falling very far. But I'd like to ask the families, and I'd also like to ask the first responders to come up, and we'll give this stage a shot. Let's see how well built, made in America. Let's see how well built it is. Okay, come on up.
This is Trump's joke at the ceremony for the 9/11 Victims' Compensation Fund bill signing. Yup, the President of the United States with some structure collapsing comedy for 9/11 first responders who dragged Americans from the rubble after the towers collapsed. To be clear, this joke is objectively just not funny, but it is really not funny when you're saying it to people who've contracted cancer and seen their loved ones die after being exposed to toxins in the air on 9/11. And while you'd think that a New Yorker, even one without the ability to empathize, would have at least some sympathy for the 9/11 first responders, the ones who ran into the rubble when everyone else was running out, Trump decidedly does not. He has a long history of not only diminishing the tragedy, but actually exploiting it for his own personal gain. In this clip, you heard him suggest that he was a 9/11 first responder, which, to be clear, he was not. And this isn't the first time he's made that claim. During the 2016 campaign, he explained that he helped clear the rubble after the towers fell.
Because I was down there, and I watched our police and our firemen down on 7/11, down at the World Trade Center right after it came down. Everyone who helped clear the rubble, and I was there, and I watched, and I helped a little bit. Clearing the rubble, trying to find additional lives. You didn't know what was going to come down on all of us.
Now, if you're wondering what Trump was actually doing on 9/11, he was calling into news stations to brag that because the World Trade Center had collapsed, Trump Tower was now the tallest building in Lower Manhattan.
Donald, you have one of the landmark buildings down in the financial district, 40 Wall Street. Did you have any damage, or did you know what's happened down there?
Well, it was an amazing phone call I made. 40 Wall Street actually was the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan, and it was actually, before the World Trade Center, was the tallest. And then when they built the World Trade Center, it became known as the second tallest, and now it's the tallest.
And besides the depravity of gloating of his newfound honor, it wasn't even true. He couldn't even manage to be honest with his disgusting silver lining of the September 11th attacks. So for him to use this bill as an opportunity to once again put himself on a pedestal is par for the course, especially when it was his party that stood as the primary opposition to it passing. It was only after a concentrated public shaming campaign by Jon Stewart that Mitch McConnell was forced to bring the bill up for a vote. And even then, Rand Paul and Mike Lee, both Republicans, were the sole objectors to the bill's passage. Apparently unable to square helping the 9/11 first responders have funding for their health care with their steadfast belief in fiscal conservatism. Of course, both Republicans voted in favor of the $1.5 trillion tax cut for corporations and the ultra-rich, despite the fact that economists warned it wouldn't pay for itself like Republican leaders promised. And now, to exactly no one's surprise, even the GOP has conceded that it won't pay for itself. Guess different rules apply when you get to cut your own taxes, huh? So while Trump is content to pat himself on the back for signing a bill to extend funding for first responders against opposition from his own party, keep in mind that he's always used the collapse of the World Trade Center as nothing more than an opportunity to promote himself and, apparently, to try and get some cheap laughs from the crowd.